Uh, Thanks, Aaron. It's a very kind and lofty introduction, which might be hard to follow, but I'll do my best anyway. Yeah, this is a, as Aaron said, this is a lay out your own poetry adventure book. Because I used to read a lot of certain types of books which won't be named when I was young. I wanted to do some kind of homage or pastiche or something to them for ages, but I couldn't quite work out what. And this kind of started off as a short story that was kind of loosely inspired by, I had a series of quite random jobs in my 20s. And one of them was putting up marquees all over these very small towns in Ireland. And that kind of started to stitch this together. And then it kind of turned into this lay out your own poetry adventure about these random jobs, because I think something I'm interested in poetry is kind of, I don't know, might be a bit broad to call it like poetry of the working class, but if I'm more interested, I find some poetry can be very kind of elitist, and I'm probably more interested in, you know, something that more reflects people's day-to-day experiences, I suppose. So yeah, this kind of came together after a while, and I was lucky enough, I got a grant from the Arts Council to do it, which meant I could basically kind of muck around with it. I didn't have to kind of worry so much about the outcome, which is cool. But then I sent it to Aaron, and yeah, he did an absolutely excellent job with it, and it looks like a real artifact. And like when I got the proofs, I was like, wow, this is really cool. So oh, he asked me to say something about the novel. I might do that a bit later, but I'll start reading anyway. So if I was doing, like, if I ever do a live reading, if those things ever start happening again, like, it would probably be fun to like do the lay out your own adventure bit where you could ask people in the audience to choose what they want to do. I don't think that's going to work too well tonight, but we can pretend we're doing that. That might be quite good. Right, so poem one. Oh, I better read the little blurb thing. Sorry, that wasn't on my list of what I sent you, so I'm going to mess you up now. I actually forgot the list of poems that I sent you there for a minute. I had to go look them up. I was like, I don't know what I'm reading. Okay, so this is kind of the preface, right? So, a thick-necked prick from Gort wants you to help him put up a tent somewhere out the back arse of Letterfrack. Will you go with him? And will you survive? If you do, only you get to decide. Okay, so this is our first chapter. The Erection Specialist 1. Half fucking 6, he picks you up in the end. Half fucking 6. After telling you being Salt Hill for 5:30. When you called him the day before, rang the number in the advertiser. Erection Specialist needed. Well, now that got your attention. Labourers to put up a marquee. Where in Salt Hill, you'd asked him. The bit near the sea, he'd said, and then he hung up. The bit near the sea. The bit near the fucking sea. He'd sick in your hole. I'm sure you should have known then. So there you are, you and the young lad. Murta, his name was, you find out in the end when you read it in the paper. And waiting for nearly an hour, walking laps of a flickering street lamp, circling it like a pair of bicycles, afraid you'll tip over if you stop. Stamping your feet awake in your boots, blowing billows of breath into cupped up hands and dreaming of being back buried in your beds. But quiet enough though, not much chat at that hour of the morning. You can both tell it's shaping up to be a cunt of a day, something about it, the grawness of it maybe. And you're only ainting through the fags, one after the other and the other, nom, nom, nom. Nearly quarter of the box gone when the sour prick finally screeches up in the van. A brand new Mercedes Sprinter, mind. He had no problem spending money on the van. He looked after that right enough. And he rolls down the window and you see his big slab of a head for the first time. Red, bulbous, sweating. A pure thick-necked prick from out past Gort, and he's wearing one of those black tinsellet caps like you'd pick up from the petrol station bargain bucket. So a brand new van, and the old fucker wouldn't even buy himself a proper fucking hat. I mean, this is the kind of you're dealing with here. And he lets off a snarl at you like a tumor prolapsing out of a badger's arse. Come on to fuck, you're late. I told you to be up by the hotel. Well, by Christ, you know what way it's going now. You have his jib well and truly cut all right. But you've been out with a scratcher over an hour. And you think you should get paid something. Anything. Stop the whole morning being a total meow of pure woe just altogether. So you walk around to the passenger door and you open it up, and what drops out? A rolled up marquee wall and hits you right on the knee. Put that fucking wall back and get in the back, says he. So, do you get in the back of the van with the young lad, or do you go back to your own car and drive home? To get in the van, please turn to page 17. To get back in your own car and drive home, please turn to page 14. Right, so we'll assume everyone has chosen to turn to page 14. Okay, 8 algorithms for the self-driving self. Yeah, good choice, yeah. Claire, I agree. That's what we all should have definitely not got in the van. 8 algorithms for the self-driving self. 1, you are driving on a residential street when you are forced to swerve to avoid a van. To your left is a murderer, and to your right is a baby. 2, you're traveling through a 50 kilometer an hour speed zone when you're forced to swerve to avoid a truck. To your left is a baby who grew up to become an estate agent, and to your right are 2 babies eating a murderer. 3, you are zipping along a country lane when you are forced to swerve to avoid a small mountain solitude. To your left is a text you sent in your 20s, and to your right is the one that you never could. 4, you are cruising along a motorway when you are forced to swerve to avoid a recently reclassified planet's sense of inadequacy. To your left is a culturally appropriated indigenous votive taking advantage of its now enhanced public profile to exploit lesser and more impressionable effigies. To your right is a Twitter storm marinating an avocado in beard oil. 5, you are blaring down the Autobahn when you are forced to swerve to avoid the hours invested in the 2nd season of a box set where the monks break back into the monastery. To your left are the gargoyled eyes of a final year PhD student who's been asked, but in passing, about her thesis. To your right is a national treasure avoiding tax by fly tipping a paedophile wearing a poppy. 6, you are careening up and down simultaneously a Penrose staircase when you are forced to swerve to avoid the nights you turn down sex to play the computer. To your left is a marmot still maintaining a voted Brexit to make immigration fairer for non-Europeans. To your right is an echidna espousing literal but a la carte adherence to scripture. 7, you are hurtling across a Mobius strip when you are forced to swerve to avoid a monocle wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt. To your left is a burning tower block justifying austerity by conflating national expenditure with a household budget, overlooking, of course, that national expenditure raises revenue in a way domestic spending never can. To your right is a woman who CC'd in your line manager. 8, you are flashing between interdimensional wormholes when you are forced to swerve to avoid the difference between popularity and populism. To your left is the entirety of your future contained in the eyeballs of a god, and to your right is the entirety of your god contained in your future eyeballs. Hard luck, you have not survived the day with Slabhead, but you do make it home without further event and get back into bed, and you fall asleep and dream so deep that your brain slowly empties. To play again, return to page 1. To finish playing, close the book. So we didn't survive, unfortunately. We got killed by an interdimensional wormhole, but such things happen. So I'll just read 2 other options that you might have come across had you been lucky enough to work your way through the day. Right, so this one is burger foods, and this is when you try and leave halfway through the day because you hate the job so much and you go and try to get a different job, and this is the job that you get. It's called burger foods. You're cleaning the freezer again. It's dark, apart from that one bulb in the ceiling covered by the blue plastic casing and a metal grill. The light in the freezer is a pale blue, the same ghostly colour of lights in the public toilets to stop smackheads finding a vein. You can't imagine that's a problem with people shooting up in the cold store of an unnamed and totally fictional fast food chain, but you get the image of a stack of frozen Whoppers and discovering a cryogenic junkie with a belt on his bicep. The thought makes you step backwards into a box of fries and you end up with your arse planted into a tray of cold meat patties, icy bits of burger soaked down your pants and up your hole. Frozen flame grilled cunts, you say. You're about to stand up, but you decide against it. There's nothing actually needs to be cleaned in here. The freezer is, in fact, spotless. And you know it's spotless because you cleaned it yesterday and the day before. And you're only in the freezer because your manager sends you in out of pure spite. Spite because you refuse to clock out when it's quiet and go sit in the staff room so that you're not getting paid. It's one of our strategies to keep the costs on our shifts down. However, you know, after some research, that's illegal, and so you refuse to do it. But now, in a bid to break you, whenever you refuse to clock out, she makes you scrub the abominably grease-soaked grill hoods and then go in and clean the freezer so all the manky burger grease solidifies into your hair. Your manager is not used to people refusing to clock out. Most of the other people who work the night shifts with you are Chinese students who legally can only work 19 hours a week. But your manager allows them to register using both their English names and their Chinese names. So now they can work 38 hours a week because they show up as two separate people on the wage slips. So they're too scared to refuse her cost-cutting overtures. But even though you've tried to hate her for this, you can't. You've seen her crying in the office when she needs to fill in the weekly target charts. And you still remember how the man from headquarters got up in her face, shouting so loudly about her excessive use of cheese in the quarter pounders with cheese. Use lettuce instead. Lettuce is cheap. Cheese is not. That he left spittle all over her glasses. After 10 more minutes watching your breath clump in the blue air, you reach the maximum amount of time health and safety says a person can spend in a freezer. And so you get up and leave. Your manager is hiding in the office pretending to do something with spreadsheets. The next few hours pass uneventful, save for an argument with a customer who waves a gherkin at you and shouts, "I told you no cucumbers." In the end, it turns out you were both right. And another customer who has eaten all but the final crumb of her burger, but is now at the counter complaining that the mayonnaise was off and thus demanding another burger full of the very same mayonnaise in recompense. When it's time for your actual break, you do go and clock out and you sit in the staff room with a bag of onion rings. Roy is already there, noisily drinking a milkshake, and you sit across from him on a blue plastic chair, which is fixed to the floor. Is Roy a popular name in China? You ask him, and he laughs before telling you his Chinese name, which he correctly predicts you won't be able to pronounce. He then tells you he went to the cinema at the weekend. What did you see? You ask him. The Passions of Christ, he says. Did you like it? You say. It was okay, he says, but I didn't understand the story. Who was the main character? And why did no one like him? And why was he carrying that big stick? Your manager is still crying into the recalcitrant rows of her spreadsheets, and you know you've now got 13 minutes to explain the whole concept of Jesus to a notional Buddhist who speaks only conversational English. Right, you say to Roy, offering him an onion ring. You see, there was this donkey, right? Oh, no, forget the donkey. No, there was a star. No, actually, there was a king doing a census. What's a census, he says. Ah, here, Jesus, look, you say, handing him over an onion ring. You're going to need another one of these. Hard luck, you have not survived the day, and it seems that the job may in fact be even worse than the one you just left. To play again, return to page 1. To finish playing, close the book. Right, and we'll read one more short one, which is another adventure that you may have found yourself on, depending on your choices, and it's called How the Grass Got In. That summer it was a beehive. That summer it was a flume. That summer it was a jut nail on the walls of a full cloakroom. That summer was a mangrove and half the crabs below. That summer was the sock you lost by the gurning of the sergeant's brow. That summer was every whirling hem in a pre-war Viennese ball, and you were but one lacquered plank feasting on each light footfall. That summer was 20 labouring men stood fast in brawny boots, and you were the ways they tried fright by the days with their bawdy hollers and whoops. That summer was a Punjab pirate, complete with swarthy entourage, and you were but its shaking fist as it damned the evil Raj. That summer huffed up half your windows and drew on your breath-wet glass, then pried loose half your skirting boards till in flew the wild ryegrass. Hard luck, you have not survived the day with Slabhead. After extensive roaring and shouting, Slabhead gives up. When the coast is clear, you get out of the van and you spend the next 8 hours in the first pub that you find. To play again, return to page 1. And to finish playing, please close the book. Thank you very much. And a massive thanks to Aaron and everyone at Broken Sleep for putting such effort into that. It's hugely appreciated.